How are we doing today, guys? So today we're going to be talking about rope climbs. We're going to be going through a couple of progression drills to simply just get people used to rope climbs as well, and then build into obviously the full rope climb itself. That way we can learn the proper progressions and skills associated with that. So to begin with, where a lot of people struggle with is they don't have the comfort around their hands in terms of being able to grip onto the rope and being comfortable knowing that they have plenty of time to move on the rope. Quite often people are so worried about trying to death grip that rope or trying to keep it as close to them, or worried that their hands are going to slip really quickly, etc., that they don't actually feel comfortable doing the foot lock itself. So a really good way to simply just get people used to that and know how much time they have is to get them to do hangs. Simply just hanging on the rope and getting used to hanging for an extended period of time and feeling comfortable there. And hanging with, obviously, straight arms, but also hanging with a bent arm as well. Because these different positions are going to feel comfortable, and they're gradually going to learn that they're okay, they're not going to hurt themselves, or they're not going to slip as fast as they think they will, simply because that they've done it before and they've experienced it before. So get yourself really good advice to start off with if you want to get these is learn to hang first. After that, start playing with pull to stands. So when we're setting up a pull to stand, set your feet directly underneath your anchor point. From there, lie down on the ground. From there, obviously you'll pull the rope out at an angle. From that point, I'm going to deliberately lift my hips off the ground, so just my shoulders are. And this is super crucial, because where a lot of people do is they'll do this and they'll just pull themselves up with their abdominals, and typically they've got their feet on the ground, they'll just bend their knees and stand up. That's fine if you don't have the physical strength to pull yourself properly up, but we want to develop to the point where you can do this. So that I don't classify as a full pull to stand. We want to get yourself build up the strength so you don't have to rely on the legs as much. So lock the hips up. From there, pull and get used to having that rotation to then pull yourself all the way up to a standing position. That action itself will get you used to the pulling movement and pulling yourself individually with each arm all the way up through the rep, and just get the arms used to, again, the vertical grip of the rope, which is obviously very different to a hook grip all over the top with a bar or rings or anything like that. So getting yourself used to these grips will just make your life a lot easier when you're learning to actually do the rope climb itself. The other one to play around with to build up to is a rope pull-up. Now everything here stays the same in terms of what you would be doing with a strict pull-up. So if you want to watch our strict pull-up video, go watch that for like mechanics around the shoulder. What we're looking for here is obviously the grip is going to be different in terms of it's going to be vertical. And if you're doing these on the rope, practice left hand over and right hand over. You'll probably find one feels stronger. And that's just because when you come up to the top position, obviously my right arm in this case is fully lengthened. It actually doesn't have the leverage correct yet. Well, in a good place to create leverage. Whereas the left hand, because it's starting lower, I have a bend in the shoulder, a bend in the elbow. So my left arm in this case is going to be the one that does the initial pull. And then my right's going to start assisting as it starts getting higher. But by the same token, I'm not going to be able to get as high, because as soon as this arm runs out of space, the right's still going to have a little bit of room left. And that's where the right will take over. So the reps will take, the arms will take over in different places dependent on which hand is over the top and which hand is underneath. And this is obviously can be quite useful from a training stimulus standpoint. If you're weaker on one side or can't necessarily do a one arm pull up, but your two arm pull ups are getting pretty good, this can be like a nice little variation to strengthen one side over the other. So if you're doing the pull-ups, obviously gripping as high as possible or jumping all the way up, although by the same token you don't need to jump all the way up. From there, I'm going to let myself hang. So deliberately hang first, because I see a lot of people and they jump up first, and that's cheating the rep. Remember, we want to start with our arms long so that our shoulders are basically touching the ears. From there, we're looking to maintain some form of tension through the midline. Obviously, the rope can make it a little bit more difficult or annoying just because you got all this rope hanging between your legs. But holding into that hollow shape a little bit more. You may arch it a little bit more simply because of the, obviously the less strength between one side versus the other. From there, I'm looking to create an initiation through my elbows, and then from there, pulling through the lats. So I'm going to hang. From there, I'm going to pull, chin over, then lower all the way back down. Now, big thing, obviously there's less stability when you're doing it on the rope. The grip side of it, in terms of having that vertical grip, you need to create basically a crush versus just being able to hold your hands in a hooked position when you're hanging on a bar, on a static bar. It doesn't have to be active, is what I'm saying. Whereas here, you have to be crushing the entire time as you create that pull. And that's obviously where grip can become a factor. Now, how you can help that is obviously chalking hands up. And with rope climbs, you're going to need chalk. It just honestly makes a big difference, particularly if you're in a sweaty Metcon. When I say chalk up, I mean get your hands white. So if I do the same thing again, focus on all the same cues, I'm going to find that I've got a little bit more grip this time. So this time I've got my left hand over. From there, I'm going to hang, and then I'm going to initiate through the elbows, pull up, and then all the way back down. So pull-ups and pull to stands and hangs are all going to be your crucial components just to get started with your rope climbs. Okay, once you've got the hands kind of, you're used to it, we want to start talking about the foot lock. Foot lock is obviously going to allow you to build through all the positions or build into being able to go up the rope quickly and efficiently and not burn out your arms. Now, obviously the full progression to the pull-ups and the pull to stands, like I just mentioned, is to go through to legless rope climbs and being able to actually create a pull and continuing to climb without using the legs. Obviously that requires a fair bit of strength, particularly to be able to go all the way up. We've got 4.5 meter ropes here. Obviously if you've got shorter ropes off the rigs, they tend to be about 3.5. It might be a little bit easier, but the big thing is obviously you need to be able to progress to be able to pull all the way through there. We won't be talking too much more about that today, but if you're doing legless rope climbs, big thing is maintain tension through your core. That makes a big difference with your lat engagement. And keep yourself in your mid-range. Don't elongate or get too short in this bottom position. If you keep it in mid-range, you're a lot stronger isometrically or in that static hold, and that's going to allow you to create a much better position or much better consistency to continue moving yourself up the rope. So that's the other thing that you want to be thinking about when you're doing pull to stands. Anyway, pulling onto the rope climb itself and working on foot lock. So foot lock is what's going to allow you to create the climb in an efficient manner. So easiest way to learn that is to actually have a box. Box makes it significantly easier. It allows you to sit down and allows you just to focus on what your feet are doing without actually having to worry about what's going on with the rope itself, or even having to hold yourself while you're actually messing around with the feet. So that makes it easier. One thing I will say though is make sure your laces are double knotted. And I will also talk about shoes and the knee guard. So I've got a knee sleeve on my thigh, a shin I should say, and that's going to be protecting the side that I lead onto the rope. This is because the rope will rub across that portion of your shin, and you can get some really nasty friction burns, like carpet burn sort of stuff, when people slide down the rope. Particularly when you're learning and things are slipping and sliding, because your foot lock isn't quite as good, people tend to have that sliding action of the rope, and that just makes for really, really bad carpet burns. You're much better off just wearing a knee sleeve, protect the shin. On top of that, the sliding through the feet can be made worse, particularly when you're learning, dependent on your shoes. If you do have some form like Metcon or Nano or Under Armour's Tri-Base. Then there's the Innovates, obviously different Nobles, different CrossFit shoes. Generally, those shoes have square corners, which is useful for kind of locking into the rope itself, but also these, particularly the Metcons, these thicker rubber sections which have some sort of, they always have some sort of grippiness or friction, friction surface to allow you to just have a better grip through the rope itself, which does make quite a big difference with just locking the rope in so that it doesn't slide. And it means you can be more efficient if you are more experienced in terms you don't have to put as much force into it. So when you're learning, having the right shoes and having a knee sleeve in particular really does save your shins and save your, basically it gives you better chances of success with the feet. And double knotting the shoelaces is just, otherwise you're tying your shoelaces all the time. So that's just more annoyance. Anyway, going into the footlock itself. So when we come into the footlock, we're thinking about creating knee, rope inside of knee, outside of foot, and you want to be starting in that position. From there, I'm going to lean back on my box, keeping my knee in that same shape. I'm going to use the other foot to wrap around. So I've deliberately created that wrapping sort of action. From there, I'm going to stack the toes on top of each other. Now, when I say toes on top, I'm literally meaning my toes are literally on top of each other, not this. Because if you do that, you don't have enough overlap at the heels to actually be able to create any sort of solid lock, and not this. Because if that's happening, then typically you don't have enough grip on the shoes and you can't actually squeeze tight enough to actually get a grip on the rope. So literally my toes are covering each other from the top foot to the bottom foot. That allows for a good amount of friction to then snap into and create a locking action on the foot. So what's happening here is that I'm keeping this bottom foot pulled up. I'm also deliberately driving the outside of this bottom foot into the rope and keeping that foot level. That's creating friction. From there, my top foot is creating a squeezing action. Just going to quickly reset that because I moved my feet, but I'm creating a squeezing action in towards the other foot. And you see how it slides as soon as I open that. From there, I'm trying to squeeze onto the top of the foot on this side. So to reiterate that and take the rope out of the equation so you guys can kind of see that, what I'm trying to do is rope inside the knee, outside the foot, pull it around. I'm trying to push the outside of this bottom foot into the rope. So I'm twisting the foot. From there, as I wrap around, I'm trying to create toes stacked on toes. And I'm trying to press this portion of my foot on the top foot into the top portion of the bottom foot. So toes on toes, and then I'm creating that squeezing action here. Now, this bottom foot is trying to pull up as I'm doing that. So up and out is the action that you're looking for. And the top foot is looking at pushing down and standing on the bottom foot. Now, the literal cue stand is quite crucial, because what we want to be thinking about when we're creating this foot lock is deliberately creating pressure, enough pressure that you'd physically stand on that rope to stand up. If you create that standing up action, it creates a lot more pressure and friction through the rope, which means the feet are less likely to slide. So that means the more weight you put on it, the less likely they're going to slide. Issue where a lot of people get is they start to grip onto the rope and then they death grip the rope and they try and pull themselves up rather than having it as a stand. Because they don't stand, it makes it significantly harder to keep a good lock with the feet, but it also means that their arms burn out really, really fast. So when you're at this stage, early on, learn how to stand up. Don't pull yourself up. So if I repeat all those, inside knee, outside foot. From there, I'm going to deliberately use the other foot to wrap around. I'm going to go toes on toes. I'm going to press outside of the bottom foot into the rope and pull the toe up on that side. And then I'm going to squeeze down with the top foot on top of that rope. From that point there, I'm going to literally push my knees forwards and stand. to create a foot lock. Now, I didn't actually physically stand in terms of actually stand up. What I meant by stand is I'm standing on the rope. I'm putting my weight through the rope. So you saw my hips lift, my knees went forwards. Knees going forwards is quite crucial, remember that. But knees coming forwards, and that allowed me to just lift my hips off the box, and then I was able to hold my weight, and you saw me swing, and obviously I swung back on top of the box. So that's the initial phase that you want to go through. Learn how to do that. Get good at it so you can do it 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, every single time. Then from there, then you progress to the next level, which is the exact same thing to stand. So same thing, inside knee, outside foot into rope. From there, toes on top of each other and wrap around. Bottom foot is pulling toe up and outside of the foot is going into the rope. Top foot is pressing down and on top of the top foot. From there, this time I'm actually going to stand up. So I'm going to press down on that rope to stand and lift my feet up, and then I'm going to walk my hands up that rope. So stand, and then physically stand up. And obviously you can stand onto the box as well to catch yourself. Now, big thing there is that it's about getting used to standing vertically and getting used to standing pretty much all the way up to the top. Where a lot of people get caught when they start trying to climb the rope is that they'll only pull themselves high enough that they feel comfortable. And quite often that results in bent knee positions and not lengthening out the arms. So getting into the habit of being able to stand all the way up with the legs and all the way up with the arms is a useful just habit and thing to learn for later on. So that's your next level, is being able to do that from the box. Next level is to take away the box. From there, you want to be learning how to pull your legs up. So this brings in the next phase. So when you're trying to climb the rope, so we've got 4.5 meter ropes, we can get up in two climbs, and pretty much everybody should be able to. I've got my shortest person is 157 centimeters, and she can still get up in 2. So if you should be able to get up in 2 regardless. And if you're not, that means you're probably losing distance on the rope in some way, which usually happens from not getting the feet high enough when you create your lock, not standing up with your legs, not reaching up with your arms, or a combination of all 3. So we want to be remembering those things. Okay, so how we start to create these movements. Obviously, again, lock on. What I'm initially just try and get the feet up and lock. So get used to starting with the rope inside the knee, outside the foot. That way it slides up. From there, all I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to lift my feet up and get used to locking into that position. Now, obviously, I locked into that shape quite quickly, and that just comes from practice. So that's your first step, is getting into lockout. Next step would be to stand. Next step is just stand up like you were earlier. Now, training the actual feet coming high is really about learning how to curl through the spine, but also learning how to do a pull and press with the arms. So easiest way to get higher on the rope, and I'm going to stand side on for this, is to see, and so you can watch what my arms do, is to create a lean back. Now, you can't lean back if you don't have your arms lengthened in some way, which means that if you pull yourself higher, it lets your feet get higher, but you can't lean back. So that's where the pull and press happens. What you'll see is I'll pull myself up and then I'll press away as my feet come up to allow myself to literally get my feet as high as I humanly possibly can to my as close to my hands. This action will save you significant time getting up, and again reduce the amount of locks you'll get, because you'll gain a good anything from probably 15 to half a meter's worth of extra rope, depending on how good you are at it. So I'm going to climb nice and high. From there, I'm going to pull, and I'm going to lean back. And you see how my feet got a lot higher. From there, I can obviously shift my knees forwards, and from there, I can stand. And that's going to allow me to get a lot higher with my feet and a lot higher with my actions. So, and that's reducing the amount of times that you're going to have to actually climb up that rope. So, in conclusion, how we want to tie all these things together is learn to do the hands first, learn to do the foot lock on the box. From there, learn to how to stand and to tuck yourself up. Breaking down that tuck up a little bit, actions that you're looking for is a pull and then a press away, but you're also combining that with the ability to curl up. So doing actions where you're working on literally curling the knees up to the elbows and strengthening those abdominals is quite beneficial. Doing it on a rope specifically, because how the rope moves will change how that action actually works compared to on a bar. So learning how to control those positions, control those shapes is quite beneficial. So how we actually put all this together and actually do a full rope climb is obviously all about just basically repeating those things over and over again. So you come up, you foot lock, you stand, you hold, you come up, you foot lock, you stand, etc. until you actually get to the top of the rope. Now, last piece, and probably the most important piece, is coming down. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They get up there and they go, oh shit, I don't know how to get down. How you get down is all about keeping your feet locked, walk your hands to your feet, and repeat. And if you actually think about it, you actually only need to do that once. So I'm 180 centimeters tall. I can probably reach just over 2 meters. Well, probably about 2.2 when I reach my hands over the top of my head. If I'm reaching the top of the head, let's just hypothetically say that's about 2 meters for me to tap. Means my feet are about 2 meters below that, which means I'm 2.5 meters off the ground at my feet. If I walk my hands down to almost at my feet and then fully lengthen out from there, I'm only going to be, maybe a meter or so off the ground, which makes it really easy to drop and catch. So there's no need to actually go super, super high with all your positions. All you need to do is, there's no need to rush and slide your hands down. It's all about actually just thinking about controlling that shape as you come down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the camera back, and then I'm going to let you guys see what happens when I create that climb. That way you can see the movement. And see what happens as I start to come down. Okay. So I'm just going to climb to the top. You can't quite see the red and white beam that's at the top there, but I'm trying to get as much of the rope in there as possible. I want you to watch what I do. I'm going to deliberately take a little bit of time moving through the action. So I'm going to jump high. I'm going to pull and press, climb, pull and press. I'm now at the top. I'm going to tap. I'm going to walk my hands down to my feet. From there, I'm going to hang, and I'm only about a meter off the ground. So 4.5 meter rope, all the way up to touch, and I pretty much had my head there. I actually went up too high. And then I lengthened down after walking my hands to my feet, and I was not very close to the ground. You don't have to do lots and lots and lots of locks to get down, or slide through your hands, or fireman pole it, etc. You don't have to do those things. You just have to walk your hands to your feet. So that's our rope climb video for today, guys. If you have any questions, click the message. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it.